FM. Also streaming live on Facebook, Twitter, and on YouTube in video. We are the voice and face of the region. Proud to be here on the campus of the Purdue Northwest Commercialization Center. And every once in a while, I sit in for the PNW Today show. Typically, it's Richard Rupp, but there's a couple people here that I may have a little more familiarity with. So I'm going to host it today, and thanks to Richard for letting me do so. Very proud. You guys know that I hold very dearly this relationship with Purdue Northwest. And teaching the class here will actually be out for the Ashland at PNW game on Saturday. And I'll have my whole broadcasting class out there. I'll be announcing the men's game, and then they will do some parallel announcing, and they'll be on the cameras and stuff. So pretty tight relationship, and we cherish that very much here at WJOB, and it's been a real boost to us over the years. One of the things that you got to have when you have a local university, you got to have a lot of the guys that wear the sweaters, okay? And Purdue Lafayette, you go to a Purdue game and basketball game, and you know the guys that wear the sweaters. They're the backbone of the fundraising and kind of just getting out there and making sure that the different programs have the funds that they need. And one of the guys that wears the sweaters around here at PNW has been doing that a long time. So I'm honored to be sitting here with Joe Williamson. Joe, that was your introduction. That was very Chet Kopic-like. You okay with that?
I'm great with that, Jim. Thank you so much.
Joe, I know you probably didn't even really want to do this because you're kind of behind-the-scenes guy, but we do appreciate you doing this. And when John Friend says you're going to do something, you kind of got to do it anyways, right?
Yeah, that you do.
Yes, and, of course, you've known Coach Friend since the mid-1970s, right?
I have. John and I have had a very, very good relationship for a lot of years, to be exact, about 37 years, Jim. And we've worked together on the outing to enhance the student-athletes here at Purdue, Purdue Calumet, now Purdue Northwest.
I talked to Coach Friend in advance here, and evidently you guys won over $1 million recently on the outing, correct?
We did. We went over $1 million last year, Jim, and we're very proud of that. So,
Joe, Joe is getting inducted into the Purdue Northwest Athletics Hall of Fame on Saturday. There's going to be a brunch and a ceremony at the Hammond campus right around the corner here. And he will become the 61st member of the Hall of Fame and is the only inductee in this year's class. And Joe, of course, has been co-chairing with Coach John Friend, my high school football coach, the Don Powers outing since 1981. Coach told me how that started. Evidently, I know Coach Friend since I was a little kid, looked up to him. I know he's not a golfer. So this couldn't have been an easy sell to him in the beginning.
It's a great story, Jim. I'd be happy to share it with you and the audience. But when John got appointed the AD at that time, Purdue Calumet, Don was on the board of trustees of Purdue Lafayette, Don Powers, that is. And he went to John. He said, John, if you're going to be successful at a regional campus, you're going to need money to make this thing work. He said, and I'm just finishing a golf course called Briar Ridge Country Club, and I'd like to host a golf outing for you to be the benefactor. John says to Don, I don't play golf. I know nothing about it, Don, but I'm on board. And Don says to him, well, I got a guy working for me who is yours truly. They'd be more than happy to help you. He knows all about it, and we'll get it going from there. And that was the genesis of the golf outing.
Tell us about Don Powers.
Don Powers is my mentor, or was my mentor. The late Don Powers was my mentor. He was a man who had more vision than anybody I've ever come across in my life, Jim. He was thinking 10 years out. He had a lot of great ideas that he was able to bring to fruition, i.e. the Munster Community Hospital and the way it's grown. He was the founder of that. Along with Fairmeadow, we put 2,400 homes in Fairmeadow and Munster. The Briar Ridge Country Club, another 915 single-family homes and 27 holes of golf. So he did a lot for Northwest Indiana.
Did you ever, if anybody ever asked him about flying planes during the Korean War, what would that be like?
Oh, he lights up like a light bulb when you start that, because he flew planes off of an aircraft carrier, believe it or not, and they were called the Night Fighters. and they would fly off, and come on these aircraft carriers at night. And they were jets, and he just absolutely loved that, and he did it for I think 8 years.
I went into his office a couple of times on other matters, and sometimes you want to get to the topics. Ultimate. I mean, I'm a rambler, and so people come in. I thought we were going to talk about this. No, I just remember being in his office for 1 hour straight, not getting to the topic that, hey man, we need to hit this. And he just could, you ask him one question about those flying days and ask a couple more. He was very proud of that time. I know he was very proud of the development that was able to happen with community hospital and all the places that you're looking at. But I don't know if that was ever really that was an interview that I missed. I would have loved to have that tape before Don Powers died, because he was a true American hero at some level.
Absolutely right, and a true Northwest Indiana hero. He did, as I said, so much for this area, and a lot of people don't realize exactly, how many lives he touched and how many jobs he created in Northwest Indiana in his career. It's just amazing.
So let's talk a little bit about Purdue Northwest. You didn't grow up around here, but you came here to work with Mr. Powers, correct?
Correct. I was born in Logansport, Indiana, and grew up on a farm in a little town called Anoka, Indiana, which is between Logansport and Kokomo. And when I left to go back to Lafayette, Purdue, between my sophomore and junior year, my mom and dad moved to Highland, Indiana. And so that's what migrated me up to the Northwest Indiana, to the region. And I've been here been here ever since, except for 2 years I served in the U.S. Army.
So let's talk about PNW and what you've seen happen. I mean, you obviously come up here in the mid-'70s. You see it as a commuter campus. Coach Friend leaves a great post as the athletic director and football coach at Munster High. Perhaps Don Powers kind of pushing that happening along. But it's changed quite a bit in the time that you've been here.
It's changed dramatically. I talked to Rick Costello last week, who's the AD over there, and I can remember when John first came on, Jim, there was one sport, that was basketball. Today there are 13 sports teams over there that encompass about 220 student athletes, both men and women. In this outing that we've been going on, this will be our 38th year, we've provided financial aid for 550 student athletes to the tune of between $500 and $2,500. In addition to that, in 1990, the late Jybeck and I provided the seed money to start the Donald S. Powers Endowed Scholarship Fund. That has now grown to about $400,000, and there have been 204 recipients of those monies. So in the almost 38 years that we've been in existence, we've helped 854 rather, student athletes financially.
You mentioned a number of names there that I know from my youth, Mr. Myback and Mr. Powers, Coach Friend, and so forth. But let's put this in perspective. Purdue Northwest has already made some huge strides, and there are plans to make larger strides. We're going to talk to a coach, and we're adding a sport as we talk. What does that mean in your mind for the people that have been associated with Purdue and Purdue Northwest going forward, especially those who have been fortunate enough to make some money? What do they need to do?
They need to step up and support their local campus, their local student athletes. And I feel very strongly, and I feel very good, Jim, that I've had the opportunity for the past 37 years to provide just a little bit of help for these student athletes. And as this camp grows, gets bigger, they're now in a new Division II realm, and it's a lot harder. I mean, the competition's a lot tougher. They're going to, need more money to survive, and they're going to need more, obviously, better athletes. And to do that, they're going to have to provide some financial aid to them, and that's where we come in.
And that is where you come in. And I guess one of the things that I look at, that there's a number of you guys wearing the sweaters, and I know it's like, hey, I know the Purdue sweater guys. They're the ones that write the checks, that make this stuff, provide the fuel, okay? And there's a number of these guys. I see them all around, and I won't throw any names out, but everyone's kind of getting a little bit older now, and there has to be another wave of sweater guys for Purdue Northwest to make that next leap. Is I guess where I'm headed at.
You're very right about that, Jim. But what John and I have found over the past, say, 15 years, we've gone out and got a lot of corporate sponsorships for this outing, and that's where we really, really do well. And as long as we got the backing of the merchants here in Northwest Indiana, we feel very confident that we're going to expand this thing and get it bigger and better.
So say some merchant or some corporate guy is listening right now and wants to be part of that. How do they get involved?
Be very easy. They can contact me. I give you my phone number, give you my email, whatever you want. Or they can obviously contact Rick Costello, the AD over at Purdue Northwest.
It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of backslapping. There's a lot of Coach Friend does not rip on me at the Purdue Northwest outing. He saves that for other times. Were you there when he got inducted to the Hall of Fame and he's giving all these kudos to people, and then my name comes up and he turns into Don Rickles? I've never seen it in my life out of Coach Friend. Hey, Paul wants to talk to you. Paul, you're on with Joe Williamson. Go ahead.
Hey, good morning, Jim. Good morning, Joe.
Joe, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Joe, I just wanted to say congratulations on your up-and-coming induction, and personally thank you for your efforts that you have given not just Purdue but this region as a whole. Jim, I had the personal privilege to be able to work with not only Don Powers but Joe on a couple different projects in the area throughout the years, and he was a pleasure to work with and work for, and I just wanted to congratulate him and thank him.
Well, thank you, Paul, very much for those kind words.
Hey,
have a great day.
Thank you.
So what goes on Saturday?
Saturday, I'm told I'm going to be inducted into the Purdue Northwest Hall of Fame. I'm the probably one of the few who's not an athlete that'll be in there, and I'm the only one selected for the induction in this year. And
so there's going to be a breakfast on Saturday morning, correct? Or
There'll be a brunch at 30 and some type of ceremony in the White Hospitality Building, and then we go over and we're going to attend the basketball game.
Yeah, and the basketball games. I believe it's also Kids Day, right? Yeah. So we're looking for a big crowd. I'm going to have about a dozen broadcasting students out there, and we're going to be there, and the WJOB crew of about 9 people on the games to do those on Facebook Live. And Kids Day is a big day. The women's game is at 1 o'clock, and then the men's game is at 3 o'clock, and they're going to go over from after the breakfast right there on campus and just walk across the parking lot, and you'll be able to see the women's and the men's game. These should be fairly competitive. As Joe mentioned, the level of competition has been light years heavier this year, and both Medjugorje's and Coach Bush's teams have had, racked up some pretty big losses. But so it's a big deal when we win one. And maybe the women, maybe the men will be able to pull one out. Joe, where do you want to see PNW in 5 years?
Well, I'd love to see PNW be very competitive at the level that they moved up to, this Division II, in both men and women and all the sports. And I failed to mention, Jim, too, that I'm deeply indebted to the community health care system, who has provided a lot of financial support to Purdue Northwest. And through their efforts, or some part of their efforts, Dowling Park, which we all know is a tremendous facility here that the Purdue Northwest uses for a lot of tennis and baseball and soccer and what have you. It's a great facility, and it's brought on by a lot of community healthcare systems, along with a lot of other people.
Tell us about the foundation. The Community Foundation.
Oh, Community Foundation. It's made up of 3 hospitals: Community Hospital, St. Mary's Hospital, and St. Catherine's Hospital in East Chicago. When Mr. Powers was alive and he was consolidating all these things, he formed this foundation, and they are very, very, very generous in their givings here in Northwest Indiana. Extremely generous. And
you're on the board of directors, is that right?
I am.
There he is. Hey, Leroy wants to talk to you. Hi, Leroy.
Hey, how's it going, man?
Who's that, right? Did you want to talk to Joe Williamson? Okay, I think we lost him. Hey, Saturday morning will be a big day. I'll see you out at the games on Saturday, and congratulations. They said, "Hey, you want to host this?" I go, "Yeah, absolutely. I know what you've meant to PNW, and so do all the people over here in the office and so forth. So it's a huge honor, and you certainly deserve it."
Well, thank you so much, Jim, and thank you for having me on.
All right, we're going to move on and continue. I'm going to turn off Joe's mic right there, and Joe, thanks a lot for coming in. Corey, how you doing, man? You sat very patiently through that. You are sitting sitting here with a legend right here. You probably didn't know that when you walked in. Get closer on that mic, will you?
You bet.
Yeah, move right up on top of it there. Hey, Corey Sackett is the new PNW head coach for club men's volleyball, which did not exist just a few months ago, right?
Correct. Yeah.
So why are we adding men's volleyball here at PNW?
I think the men's volleyball program's getting added to, continue to give opportunities for kids to be student athletes in a new sport that's growing across the country as a whole, and continue to drive and attract good student athletes to Purdue Northwest.
So you're working with the women right now, right?
I am.
Tell us about that team.
Yeah, I've been with the women for the last 5 years. So I've been with Julie the whole time she's been a part of that program. Julie Weijak. I've been with her for 5 years. The whole time she's been here, I've been a part of that program. So excited to see where we continue to take that program over time.
Let's talk about this year. Was a huge jump. It was from NAIA to NCAA Division II, which, I played Division III baseball in California, and the jump from a Division III to Division II or playing a Division I team. When you're in Division III in baseball, when we would go play teams that were 2 or 1, you couldn't tell the difference. And pretty much it's pretty much the case at a lot of these sports. But how'd it go with volleyball this year and women's?
Yeah, the GLIAC is a very tough conference, I think, for all of our athletic departments. So it's a very exciting opportunity for us, obviously. Just, the level of competition was tough for us. So we were confident that Julie and I were building the program the right way and the way we wanted. We were competitive each year and improved each year in the NAI, and we're going to do the same here at this next level.
Tell us about recruiting for for women's volleyball and now for men's volleyball.
Yeah, so the recruiting region that Julie and I have been a part of is we're both involved in the club scene as well. The travel club scene in the Midwest region is very competitive, put forth a lot of great athletes at every level. So just continue to use that network to bring in good student athletes from not only Indiana, but our surrounding states and across the country as a whole.
So tell us about, so you and Julie were already going to a lot of the clubs and seeing players, but only the women, only the girls playing at the younger ages. Now you got to basically double your work.
I do.
So tell us that. I mean, what does that mean? I think initially it's going to be club, correct?
Correct.
And then is there plans to make it a Division II sport down the line, or what?
I think it's in the works. I think we have to establish ourselves as a club and continue to bring in athletes at that level. But that would be the goal. A goal that I have for the program absolutely is to just expand it and continue to give those opportunities at a high level.
And you come from where?
I live in Joliet, Illinois. I grew up in Naperville, Illinois, so southwest suburbs of Chicago. I've been coaching out there at a club called Club One Volleyball. I've been there for about 10 years. So using that network for the men's side and the women's side is going to continue to bring strong athletes out to Purdue Northwest.
Is there boys volleyball in the high schools and the clubs out there in the western suburbs?
There is. It's the Midwest region as a whole is a powerhouse for men's and women's volleyball. State of Indiana has high school volleyball, but only in some of the state. Illinois has it almost across the whole state. So that's going to be, a big area for us to recruit out of.
So let's look at this. So with Northwest Indiana, I mean, we just talked wrestling for half an hour because we want to talk about things that aren't always football and basketball. I'm pretty sure that in the history of doing this show, all the way back to 1985 off and on, I've never talked about local boys volleyball. So does that affect things for you guys in that there's not an infrastructure of boys volleyball? Or, I mean, how does that – you got to go out of the area, or can you find local kids, or how does that work?
I think you can find local kids. It's at a smaller scale, obviously, because Indiana is a smaller involved state with boys volleyball. But, as I mentioned before, the sport of men's volleyball is growing every year there's opportunities presenting itself all over the place. So we're very excited to be able to offer that opportunity. And over time, I think that we will still be able to draw kids from local areas.
So let's go back to the women's volleyball of this year. Of course, it's a fall sport, correct?
Correct.
And one of the things we try to do here on PNW Day today is get some of the names out there. I don't want to put you on the spot, but let's talk about some of the young women that have been playing for Julie over the last year and you.
Okay.
And what, some of their positions and what you guys been able to accomplish.
Yeah, we graduated a big class last year, 6 people. We're really excited about our class that's coming in next year. It's 9 girls. The Del Santos sisters that attend Andrean High School competed for a state championship this year and won a state championship. We have 2 girls coming in from Michigan that also were on a state finals run as well. So we have a really strong class coming in. Abby Negri is another local girl that's a part of our recruiting class that's coming in. So we're really excited to bring in talent that's going to continue to put a competitive atmosphere in our gym and help us succeed along in the GLIAC.
So that's 9 girls in the same class, isn't it? That's pretty large, right?
It's a big class for us, for sure.
So the has the jump to Division II made it easier to recruit?
It
All
had.
right, go ahead and explain that to folks.
It's expanded the network that you can get to because it's, the NCAA is an attractive feature to a lot of kids. That the fantastic degree fields that we have at Purdue Northwest is attractive as a whole. The GLIAC conference has a well-respected conference across the country. So I think it's just expanded the network and allowed us to go after a stronger student athlete.
Top volleyball schools in the conference.
I think Ferris State is it's a program that's been surrounding itself towards the top of the conference. Grand Valley State is up there as well. The rest of the conference is kind of, right. They're all competitive right around that same. So we're looking forward to putting ourselves up there as well.
So that's kind of the same. Aren't those Ferris State and Grand Valley, aren't they both also women's basketball? Pretty good teams in both of that.
As well, yeah, absolutely.
So do you see Coach Medge around the offices and stuff?
I do see Coach Medge, yes.
You're talking about Coach Tom Medge. He has had some runs where he had some state championships at the high school level around here, and then he has been able to. He's been nationally ranked in the basically the NAIA/Division III since he took over the program. At the same year that Coach Medge graduated, Cassidy Deno and a couple of the other people, he made the huge jump to Division II. So it's been, I think, he's not used to racking up the losses, and he's handling it well, knowing him. You got to comment on that, even though you got to see him later today.
Absolutely.
What's his mood like?
Having his veteran presence in our athletic department is very uplifting to everybody. He's obviously got a great track record. I know he's going to confidently get the women's basketball team towards the top of the GLIAC from just his history and the way he can recruit, strong student athletes to our university. So,
all the way from like Dave Griffin and to Julie to Medge to Bush, going into the tennis and so forth, you can see the difference in, everybody's like, all right, we're going to take our lumps this year. And it has, I've done a lot of 20 to 30 point losses for the men's team, and they've done that for the women's team. We're not used to that at all. We're pretty much competitive. But you can also see the athletes that are coming over here for visits, and you can hear the buzz. And it really is a recruiting tool in all of the sports all the way across. But one of the things that we got to mention, because we always got to mention this, is that the student athletes' grade point averages at Purdue Northwest, you can put those basically up against anyone in America right now. And that's truly a testament to what's going on right now. Women's volleyball, where's that one sit? Do you know?
I think our GPA for this past fall was at 3.4 as a team GPA.
3.4, so. And I know that Medge's team is even a little higher than that. So I just remember when like Northwestern and Notre Dame, sometime in some of the sports, they would use that when they're taking their lumps in athletic contests. You know what the the cheer is when that's going on, right?
I don't.
That's all right. That's okay. You're going to work for us someday. We got to start getting that one going on Saturday.
Absolutely.
Hey, he's Corey Sackett. We also had Joe Williamson here. We split the time here. I want to thank Coach Friend for lining up Joe to come on the show here. And if you want to get involved, Joe's going to get inducted into the Purdue Northwest Athletics Hall of Fame. That's going to be Saturday morning, and that's going to be over here in the White Lodging Center on the very south end of the PNW campus. Then everyone's going to go over to the Fitness and Recreation Center and watch some good Division II basketball. It's going to be the last home game on the Hammond. It had last home game period, right? Yeah, and that's going to be on the Hammond campus at 1 and 3. And, of course, if you can't make it, we will have that live on Facebook. Just go to the WJOB.1230 feed on that. But I'll tell you what, if you have been thinking about coming out to one of the games, both Medge's team on the women's side and Matt Bush's team on the men's side have made some great strides throughout the year to kind of match the levels of competition. You will see some very high-level basketball on Saturday, and we urge you to come out. And that's the end of this show. Thanks a lot, everybody, for watching PNW Today. Next time around,